we are transitioning to our next fireside chat. We're for a real treat here. Welcome Tim Sanders, VP of Research Insights at G2, Executive Fellow, Harvard Business School, and Dave Boyce, author of Freemium. Congrats. And board member of Winning by Design. How are you doing?
Amazing. How you doing, Tim?
Great. Doing great, Dave. Nice to see you.
Yeah. Where are you sitting right now?
I am in Dallas, Texas.
There you go. Rock on. Dallas, Texas. I grew up in Oklahoma, so we can be enemies.
Okay. All right.
But also, but I think we're so far beyond that. We don't have to be enemies. I spent some time at Harvard, so we can be friends. There you go. And plus, we're on
There you
this.
go.
Awesome. Um, hey Tim, how do you like? I've got a ton of things that I want to ask you. I don't know how you want to structure this. We could just be pretty organic, but
Yeah.
I wish we had spent more time together. I was like doing homework on you, and
Yeah.
like, this is a friend. Like this is a friend. I should know this guy way better.
Well, we'll get to know each other better. The only thing I'd say as a prompt is that what you might not know, because I haven't talked about it yet publicly, I've been doing research for 3 months for a report that's coming out in October at Dreamforce, and it's on agents.
Mm,
We did a massive study of B2B software buyers. We've also aggregated thousands of G2 reviews just on agent categories. And we're
mm.
really getting a glimpse into the adoption rate of agent, what results are really rolling in, and most importantly, what trust levels look like today and tomorrow. So there's some fascinating insights there.
Ooh, that is a good prompt. Um, and that is that a G2 presentation? Is that a
Yeah,
Salesforce?
it's a G2 report, and
Got
it's
it.
it's called Leap of Trust. Agents are winning hearts and wallets in 2025. And the TLDR is that it's expanding faster than anybody ever dreamed. And 1 out of 3 large enterprises are letting it rip in their workflows already.
So let's just, I mean, I love it. Let's start there. That's current for you. I think it's topical for everybody. Obviously, you're way out in front of it from a research standpoint. Um, so when you say agent, how do you define that?
Ooh, very good question. Let's get into that discussion. So it's a very nuanced question, right? So
Well, if you do research, you're going to have some definition. It doesn't have to be everyone's definition, but you're going to have to
yeah, let
expand
me
on it.
let me define it and let me talk about it as being on a gradient. So an agent technically is a complex system that has the capability to reason,
Hmm.
plan, access tools, and ultimately take actions in the real world.
Hmm.
That's what an agent, fully realized agent can do. However, agentic means to take an action. Now, the action can be taken in the background, like chatbot copilot is what we call the low level, but it's the beginning of the gradient. You say, wow, a chatbot is an agent? Yeah, you run a deep research session on OpenAI, it's agentic. It's
Yeah.
making decisions for you, and the report is agentic. Now, that doesn't mean it's put into production. You're not putting that on your LinkedIn page because you might have to check for hallucinations. But here's how we think about it. We think that agents are on a gradient, and the gradient is moving up as time goes by. So at the bottom is the current chatbot copilot. Think of that as a prediction machine, like this great book back here behind me. It takes information you have, produces information that you don't have. However, the human in the loop has to decide to put it into production. So its value creation is limited. We're
Yep.
seeing intelligent assistants coming along. ServiceNow has some, Copilot Studio, you can build some. These intelligent assistants have some of that scripting that we all know from robotic process automation. You give them a little bit more autonomy in your workflow. What we've seen recently, though, is the rise of task agents, whether you're talking about Intercom Spin or even Agent Force, and they actually complete a task, like
Hmm.
actually deliver something in the real world with some guardrails.
And are
What we're
we are we in multi-step tasks yet or not? Where this is just a single task, right?
Process agents next. So process agents, you think about a process like go win a customer,
Right.
launch a marketing campaign. And to be honest, I see very few of those end-to-end process automations today, unless they're augmented by our robotic process automation bots. Like I have seen organizations, and UiPath, I saw their research. If you have a strong foundation of bots that are 100% right, and they are because they're just RPA, and you put a little layer of agents on top for all the edge cases, you can do some end-to-end automation and deal with the error rate. It's not bad, especially in low blast radius use cases like sales, where
And
like there are, you know,
one of the ways I've seen that described is you said a system of bots. I've seen that
RPA,
also
yeah.
described maybe as a system of agents with an orchestrator agent sitting on top of it, or
Well, what's
which
different
would
is
be
a bot isn't based on a large language model. A bot is like good old fashioned machine learning with scripts, and it works
right. It's code
100% of the
level.
time. There's zero hallucination.
Right.
However, it only applies to a limited number of situations. So the agent's probabilistic. It
Yeah.
can kind of move dynamically, but it also has compound errors. So if it has a 2% hallucination rate and takes 4 turns, it's 60% because of the
Okay.
compounding factor. RPA
Okay.
is zero, but it so I think what we're seeing now, Dave, is a combination of the two with, as you say, an
Right.
orchestrator that's kind of figuring out where to plug it in.
Yep.
And so that's kind of coming. I'm
RPA,
seeing that the
would you
beginning of,
equate RPA with the orchestrator, or are those two separate things?
yeah, orchestrator seems to be its own product. And you're
Okay.
seeing a lot of it. Like there's MuleSoft, there's a Maestro, there's a variety of these. At G2, we've been covering it. It's new. But it's coming. We're going to see a lot more of that. And then what we're going to see in the next few years, though, is the system of agents. And the
Okay.
system of agents will dynamically create their own agents. They will do their own reinforcement learning in environments. They will deploy on their own, and we will react to them after the fact. And that's coming, and that will create, brute force opportunity for companies that can embrace it. And to kind of finish this analogy, Dave, the way I think of it is like Waze to Waymo. So when you think about chatbots and intelligent assistants and even some task agents, it's like having the Waze app on your phone. It's
Mhm.
very democratizing. You don't need to know a city to get around because it's a suggestion machine. It gives you turn by turn, but your hands are on the wheel. Waymo is
Yeah.
different. You get in the back seat, Jesus take the wheel.
Yep.
And it is entirely transformative. It is a multi-trillion dollar industry as a result. When I talk about agents, I talk about that nuance, but to be very square, right now, we're around intelligent assistant task agent in this progression of dependable technology.
That's pretty low.
We're getting there. We're it's
Pretty
but
low.
but we're seeing incredible results even with the task agent. I mean, I
Mhm.
was just reviewing some of those for the study. I mean, we're seeing sales taking 20% of the cost out of prospecting. We're seeing marketing taking 40% of the cost out of content production. It's just amazing what even a lowly task agent can do in 2025.
So let's explore that a little bit. I'm going to start with the, to get everybody's attention, let's start with where is it breaking? Like, where did we overextend and think that we could hand things off to machines and we learned, that ain't working.
Um, well, I'll give you some. If you're asking me that question, I think the
I am,
the
yeah.
the yeah.
I have some
So
experience too, but yeah, like let's start with where it's breaking, and then we can back up to kind of where's it working, because you do have some success, it sounds like as well.
yeah. So let me just show a couple. No screenshots, please, folks. This is unpublished research, but hey, I want to show some love to Hard Skills Exchange and show you some stuff that hasn't been put out yet.
Love it.
Again, we did a large study. This is the G2 August 2025 survey. We started with 4,600. We screened it down we screened it down to a couple of thousand. Then we cleaned it to 1,500. It's global. And we're seeing the use cases largely be software development and customer support.
Sure.
So customer support right now is showing about an 80% containment rate, which is great. When you compare that to call centers at 70% at 5 times the cost, it's really working. Um, the way to think about customer support is even if it breaks a little bit, in most situations, the customer support agent is providing the customer an answer they weren't getting. They're like stuck in self-service hell, or stuck
Mm,
at a chatbot saying, "I can't give you an answer." Call customer service. And so it's like 20 years ago when we went to Boyce, when we started to have those automated call center trees where it didn't ring forever to answer it on the first call, but you had to navigate some menus. I mean, that wasn't fun, but it was better than not being able to talk to somebody. So I
mm,
find customer support to be one that even when it makes a mistake, the pain is so great for both the enterprise and the customer, the damage is minimal. We call that blast radius in
mm.
agents. Blast
Yep.
radius. The other way to think about this, Dave, fascinating insight I got from my friends at Harvard doing research. They study what's called retraction latency. In other words, when a machine, like an agent, makes a mistake, how long does it take with new instructions for it never to make that mistake again? And the answer
Mhm.
is you measure it in milliseconds. But
Mhm.
humans, the answer is different. For sales, it's 28 days. For the average employee, it's 42 days. Okay. So it's like we tend to think about the blast radius, but what we don't think about is how quickly you can roll that back and fix it with agents. So that's a fascinating point of view. So to
Yep.
answer your question straight up, the lowest breakage is in research and BI. So when you're thinking about automating research, it's never put into production. There's always an analyst in the loop. There's absolutely no risk to it. That's why you can see here it's a strong use case across industries. In some cases, like healthcare, it's the number 2 use case, right? Where it's breaking is software development. Okay. I mean, everybody's excited about vibe coding, but man, it only gets you from 0 to 1.
Mm.
There's just a lot of rework going on now with vibe coding on the back end. And you've probably read some stories. Our friend at SaaStr, Jason shares the best, where he got his code base deleted,
Yeah.
deleted by an agent. So I see that as the one where the breakage has been the biggest, even though the enthusiasm is the greatest.
You had sales development at the very bottom. I don't know what to read into that positioning, and I didn't understand all the dimensions on the
You're
chart.
not okay. So let me bring that back up. Let me bring that back up a little bit for you here, and let's do, I'm going to go Sheldon Cooper here. It's a little reference from my friends that watch Big Bang Theory. I'm going to go
Mm.
Sheldon Cooper here. I like to segment survey results because, you got all kinds of players here. So I
Yep.
kind of look at this a little bit, in sales development, when you kind of take a look at where it does better, it's not dead last in mid-market and SMB. It's only dead last in large enterprise, but 40% of our N was large enterprise because that's what we wanted to focus on in the study. Let me just give it to you straight. So agents can reduce the number of players you have in a function. So customer service agents means you need less customer service reps. In sales, you need less salespeople. Sales leaders are empire builders. You tell a
Mhm.
sales leader you're going to go from 30 to 60 employees, they won't implement it. So there's a
Right.
real drag on adoption at the sales leader standpoint, not because the tech doesn't work, but because the tech is like really disruptive to the endowment they have for armies
Right.
of humans. So it's like, prove it to me. And I just got off a call with a sales organization, a big, large webinar. I can't tell you how big the resistance level is. You can show them, hey, I can reduce cost per lead to pipe by 20%. I can speed up lead gen to pipe by 40%. And they're like, I don't care, I don't believe it. Not in my organization, not in my market, not for our customers. Why? Because the implication is I'm going to eliminate SDRs as a function and then focus more on a split between junior and senior AEs. No, they don't want to do that because it just runs counter to
Yeah.
their endowment around people aggregation or hoarding or whatever you want to call it. And I've been in
Yeah.
sales a lot, so I'm not slagging
Totally.
on anybody when I say that.
Totally. Well, let me push on that a little bit. Let Just for the sake of argument, let's eliminate the empire builder kind of motivation from the argument. Let's just assume that that is true for almost all sales leaders, but we're just going to eliminate it from the argument and
Sure,
just
sure,
going to
sure.
we're just going to be very rational about evaluating this. So that's kind of number one. Number two, you've already
Okay.
established that in a support use case, robots can solve the problem X% of the time, like without a human, and they can do it. And we already know theoretically they can do it in all languages. They can do it 24/7. They can learn, and you just established that they can
Yeah.
correct their mistakes quickly. They can learn
Yeah.
quickly and have kind of closed loop.
80%. The containment, it's the best metric, it's the containment rate. And yeah, 80% versus 70% call center. And by the way, 65% offshore call center. It's a little slightly lower.
So good. So in theory, I should be, and that's a human to robot interaction, right? And it's
Yeah.
succeeding. In
Yeah.
theory, I should be able to translate that over into to a human to robot interaction around
Yep.
sales development, like
Yep.
qualification, early stage sales
Yep.
cycle stuff. Um,
Why
I
not?
I've heard the argument, not from a empire building standpoint, but I've heard the argument that eliminating a human there isn't going to work. It's going to be disconcerting. Like I have a motivated buyer coming in, and she needs to be able to talk to a human, not a robot. How would you respond to that?
Well, that's a segmentation. I mean, I would use demographics. I would say, how old is this person? What demographic are they in? Are they in one of the SEC states? I'm just kidding. That's actually an Oklahoma, Texas joke for you. You have to segment that answer to have a real view into what we're talking about. So the question is, When I talk about sales automation, I'm not talking about the actual Zoom call. The Zoom call is always done by a human. The interactions by the human. There's a ton of work to get a person on a Zoom call.
There you
That's where
go.
the opportunity is. Okay.
Right.
So all of the persona enrichment, all of the cadence enrichment, all of the back and forth scheduling enrichment. No, we don't want to talk to a human to set a Zoom meeting. We're a real buyer. But on the Zoom meeting, we do. So you've asked a really good question. If we set aside the empire builders, and I was asked this question, you are right on here. Okay, guy says I'm not an empire builder. I still don't do it. Tell me why. Here's the reason why. Let me tell you a little short story. Let's say you're a parent of a kid in college, or let's say maybe they're even, freshmen, and you are micromanaging them, and you don't trust them to take a trip to Cancun for spring break. And they're like, you don't trust me, you don't trust me. But you have another one that's 40 and you did that show with them and they don't come home anymore for Christmas because you kind of broke up with them in college. They stopped calling you, and the pain is so great. You will give the new one, the second child, more trust than you ever imagined because you saw what happened when you didn't do the other. The reason I bring that up is a concept that I've been working on for my next book, and it's called trust gaps. And I
Mhm.
studied it for cloud computing. Cloud computing trust gaps were big. For 15 years, researchers studied how much money companies lost by not moving to the cloud because they didn't trust it for whatever reason. Answer is $44 billion a year over 15 years. Okay. If you think the trust gap's bad, look at what it's going to be for agents. It's going to be huge. So here's the
Mhm.
answer. The answer is the pain is not great enough in sales for us
Mhm.
to trust it. The pain is great enough in customer service. When you look at customer service debt, anything, even mistakes, is better than nothing. When you look at software debt, especially around updates and making shipping deadlines, the pain is so great and it's breaking. It's still the fastest growing category on dollar for dollar. That's why API spend is 80% software coding. So follow the pain, because where there is pain, there will be begrudging trust. So sales just doesn't feel enough of that pain right now. They don't
Right.
have the recruiting bottleneck. They don't have the cost per containment
Mhm.
pain that customer success is having. I mean, my God, call centers $10 on the average. $10. An agent on the average is somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.80 to $3. So follow the pain, and you will find adoption. Sales doesn't have it yet. Marketing, a lot of those CMOs don't do it because they come from a brand background, and for them, the blast radius is just, it's unacceptable. It's a one-way door. And
Right.
I always tell sales leaders, like, you say you're worried about sending bad emails that aren't well constructed. I'm like, have you read the stuff coming out of fill in the blank machine learning platform that's doing that automation already? So
Yeah.
anyway, it's the pain issue, really, if you get past empire builders.
For a half a second, maybe this is going to persist. I don't know. It depends on how much pressure we get from, you know, how much pressure enters boardrooms from watching, companies like Lovable and Replit and Cursor go, bonkers with no salespeople. I mean, we should have taken the cue from Atlassian and Dropbox and DocuSign, but we didn't. The no salespeople kind of all of the fastest growing software companies since 2003, all of them, like every single one, has been PLG. Every single
Yeah,
one. Slack, DocuSign,
yeah.
Atlassian,
All the
Box.
way up to enterprise. Once you get to, if your
No,
investors think you're going to, well, I got to tell
well,
you, WindSurf salespeople took me to a Cowboys game, and they're doubling the sales force every quarter. So no, WindSurf got to a certain level, and now they're going to get to, and I already
right.
know level.
Oh, you're
So
saying it's fastest growing
there's
until
a
you get to
ceiling.
enterprise,
The
and then you
PLG
have
has this. There's a ceiling. I mean, it's
feeling.
one thing to be zero salespeople to 200 ARR. Well, that's not true. 120. If I'm going to get really wonky and look at a piece of unpublished research I just read that studied Replit, Lovable, even Midjourney, et cetera, your ceiling's around 120 if your TAM is around 150x that. So it's like you take the TAM and you do some math, and there's a ceiling without salespeople that PLG can get you through. Go
Right.
ask Aaron Levy about this at Box, and he's going to tell you, you want to be $1 billion run rate company? Guess what, folks? You're going to build
No, you're
sales.
always
You're
gonna,
just
yeah,
not going to build it for
absolutely,
mid-market and SMB.
absolutely.
So that's the answer.
But
There, it's
just
just nuanced.
but just coming back to the pain question, does the market is back to growth. Like the market is demanding growth.
Mhm.
Like rule of
That's
40
right.
all profit, no. Like we're done with that. That was 2022. Now
Right.
we have at least 20 of our points coming from growth. Um,
That's
and
right.
and are we going to throw money at it again the way we did in 2019, 2018, 2017? Question mark. If we don't, then there could be some pain. I don't know. This is a hypothesis, Tim. Like the pain is not high enough in sales because sales has a recruiting pipeline and they have a budget and they have a budget. But what if we pulled the budget from sales? Like what if people
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, I want you to
Really
grow,
good
but
point.
you actually can't hire."
So amazing point. So we were actually able to analyze at the organizational level. And this is G2 review data, so I can't show it to you because we want to respect privacy.
Yep.
But we were able to behind the curtain. I'm able to kind of correlate companies, and then what I do is I use hiring data to correlate the change in open job recs or announcements of layoffs or rumors of hiring freezes across scrapable places like using Grok on X. There is an absolute correlation between a company suddenly changing the sales hiring practices and them adopting agents. So to your point,
There you go.
once they're told you can't backfill, once they're told we want you to
Now what do I
top grade,
do?
the pain will become great. So right now you've hit the nail on the head. Go build an army, go hire all the SDRs you ever wanted. That's going on even at PE backed companies. But if that changes, and we started to see it at large enterprise where you'd see like some of the big companies, Meta is a great example, or even Salesforce, what's going on right now, where you can kind of manipulate your stock price by your cost, your capital efficiency by letting people go. Once that starts to move downstream, you're going to see more urgency at the sales level to backfill with something. So if I tell you, Dave, you can't backfill with 5 SCRs, then you're going to take a really hard look at agents to be that backfill because it's coming out of OpEx. It's not coming out of fixed cost headcount. So I do think that's a hack. And again, we played this game before in tech with cloud and premise. So when they cut all the capex, everybody just started putting it in the cloud because you could use OpEx, and that
Yeah.
was a big driver. 2008 recession was the number one driver of cloud adoption, not managed cloud, private cloud, and improvements in privacy.
Well, let's assume
A
it goes
very
that
good
way.
point that you've
But I
made.
mean, let's just for the audience, let's just lean into that version of the future because I think some version of that is going to happen where backfill budgets are going to get pulled, the pain is going to rise, and revenue leaders are going to have to figure out how to do more with less. So they're used to building an army. Now they got to build a clone army. um, what you've said. Well, what do we? Let me just back up. I don't want to lead the witness. Um, um, I'm that person now. My budget just got pulled. I still have to deliver the same number. Actually, I got to deliver a growing number. And now I got to learn how to work with robots. What do I need to know? Like, what? Tell me how to step into that new reality as a revenue leader. I'm not a technologist. I'm a revenue leader.
Start with the business problem, work backwards.
Yep.
Focus on your ability to very clearly express goals and organize enough context of what good looks like, what success looks like, best examples for every use case you might want to automate. Because right now, context is king, whether it is in using a large language model or in programming an agent. So let me break this down one step at a time. So, where agents are going, and they're going there very quickly, is to fulfilling well expressed defined goals.
Yep.
So if you can, and it's almost like managing, if you're a CRO, it's almost like managing your regional vice presidents. That's what it's always been about.
Yep.
Help describe the goal, but give me the right KPIs so that I can kind of break that down and see what success looks like. Um, Organizing context is really important. Let me give you, well, I'll give you a sales example. So I was looking at a sales organization that's outperforming their rivals in an industry by 40% on agentic efficiency. The one thing they seemed to do that no one else did is they did all the upfront work to gather all the gong call data from their best sales calls that were the most correlated to closing a deal and
Yep.
put that into natural language transcripts to train an agent on. They looked at all the gong calls in particular that got a Zoom meeting with a person further up in an organization. They also gathered all of the emails that had high conversion, say, in trying to set a Zoom call for that use case. So when you take the time, and there's actually contractors you can bring in to do that, you got to really get them under an NDA, of course. But what they're doing is they're carefully studying the best converting emails, the best converting gong calls, and creating a rich context document that the agent trains on. You don't need to be a technologist to do that. You need to know two, you need to be Rick Rubin. You need to know the goal of the record and what good looks like.
Yeah.
And Rick Rubin is my example. And if I use one thing just to illustrate this, because I think it's like very empowering to people on the call today, is that when you think about AI and inclusive of agents, what it's doing for the first time is it's decoupling prediction from judgment. So in the past, the expert did both at the same time and made a decision, and then they had rules of thumb that ran their organization. And the problem is rules of thumb, they go out of date and you find out, when it's too late. So what's happening now is the machine can make the prediction and then the human being passes judgment. And that produces very dynamic data decisions that you can code. You can change the code, as I mentioned earlier, immediately. So the point is, you don't have to become a tech expert as a sales leader. You need to get your together with respect to organizing your greatest hits. And a lot of times in organizations, we really haven't done a good job of that. Some have done a very good job of it, especially if they have a strong partnership with ABM, because that's ABM's thing, is to go find out the best emails that convert and make sure that becomes the only emails that are sent, right? So I think that's the answer. There's one little thing too for everybody watching. Go Google, because I don't have time to look up the link. Just Google 30% rule, Harvard. You'll get a great video, and it basically says you only need to learn 30% of a technology to master
Boom!
100% of
I
the
didn't lead the
business.
witness, but you got there anyway.
That's right. You just need to learn a little, make you dangerous. Fascinating.
So you said something at the very top that I think anyone listening here who's interested in this topic should really key on. Um, you said start with the business goals. And
Yeah,
like I gotta have this is so important. Then you went to how what correlates with the business goals, which is like let me analyze kind of the activities that will actually get me to the business goals. But even knowing what the business goals are and having them
that's right.
written down is necessary in order to deploy a robot army. It's necessary in order to deploy a human army too.
That's right.
Sometimes assume that it's just kind of like already exists in the ether that
Yeah,
is going to get transferred through kind of tribal knowledge from generation to generation, and we didn't take
yeah,
the time to document a theory
yeah.
of the case. But if we have a documented theory of the case, then a robot can actually follow, can actually optimize for that. And then the next level of, well, what does correlate to good results? And so, but that first thing, like have a theory of the case. If you're going to manage a robot army, you need to know how to give them instructions.
Because here's why this is important. The concept of Parkinson's law, right? I don't know if you heard Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law, I actually think I still have it. Oh, yes, I do. Another graphic. This one you can screenshot. This is a game changer. Let me tell you why generative AI has not produced results, but agents using generative AI do. Parkinson's law says that humans will always expand to fill the allotted time,
Mm,
meaning even if I'm more productive, it doesn't mean I produce more. It means I have more time that I can spend watching TikTok videos, going to do things I want to do, walking my dog, or going to extra Zoom call meetings. Deadlines drive human results, not tools. And Parkinson's law has like been proven by so many studies. So that's why even though generative AI can make you faster at coding, it doesn't mean you ship more code. Deadlines make you ship more code. But if you change deadlines because you gave people productivity tools, they will riot. Agents don't do that. They grind. They are
nice.
unaware of deadlines. They don't take PTO. They don't get caught up in Slack conversations. They decline 100% of Zoom call meetings. So you can actually forecast an increase in velocity 99% correlated to the efficiency of the agent. Okay, now that changes everything. And that's why agents are such an exciting opportunity. So when you tell an agent, I'm going to give you a goal to produce X number of Zoom meetings, and you're going to point at that goal, but I'm not going to give you a deadline. I'm going to say, get there as quick as you can. My research says they're going to surprise you 85% of the time and show up early, assuming you pick the right platforms. And
So
by the way,
good.
there's a question that I need to address here because I keep referring to this research. Yeah, question is, how are you collecting usage and manufacturing self-reporting? Yeah, all surveys are self-reporting. I wish we could actually take a look at the books from private to public and see where they actually spent it. So we did a lot of work at G2 to take a large cohort of 4,600 and kind of screen and clean it down to a smaller cohort of around 1,500 that feel like they're in the know and have low noise, but it's self-reporting, just like G2 review data is.
So I know we got to hand it back, Julia. Let me just summarize a couple of things that we heard for all revenue leaders here. Number one, get out of your own head on empire building. That is not the game. The game is delivering results. So get out of your own head and solve for delivering results. Number two, and if you have to kind of fictitiously raise the pain to get yourself into that headspace, great. Number two, agents aren't only running Zoom calls. Like that's not the only way to think about agent as a customer facing role. You can also think about agents as taking on tasks that are behind the scenes that set up the Zoom call or
Right?
that follow up on the Zoom
Everything up
call.
to the Zoom call and maybe after the Zoom call you can
Yeah,
automate, but the Zoom call
yeah.
needs to be a human. I believe you.
And then number three, do the intellectual work to develop a theory of the case. Like make sure that you can write down what the objectives are, and then maybe even do some research on what good looks like so that you can actually task your agents to accomplish the results that you're targeting. Thank you so much, Tim. Amazing. I want to spend more time with you, brother.
Well, then let's do it, man.
Let's do it.
What a phenomenal
Julie,
session.
Julia,
Thank you
I
so
mean, back to
much.
you. Yeah, thank
Thank you,
you.
Tim and Dave. The community loves it. Lots of comments, questions. But yeah, the main question, how can we support you? Where should our people go?
I put it here. If you could put it in the chat, just come see me
Yeah,
on LinkedIn. I've got a newsletter. I publish everything all the time. That's all I care about. Dave,
LinkedIn also, and I just released a book. I know Tim has written more books.
premium.
But my
Good for
book is
you.
new. It's like 2 weeks out. It's called Freemium. It's all about the rise of automated GTM and now moving to agentic GTM. Also, and the flip side of that is self-service. We have a long ways to run on both of those trends, and I'd love for you to read Freemium.
amazing.